Welcome, welcome. Let's rank some John Mayer albums. And by let's, I mean I'm gonna rank them and you're gonna sit there and watch. And probably get a little pissed off, because I have some unique opinions. I also went a good portion of my life not really paying much attention to John Mayer. I wasn't there with the OG crowd, so if you're looking to take out some pent-up anger on someone random on the internet, today's your day. Anyways, I'm gonna start off this list at number 8 with Paradise Valley. I don't actually know the backstory behind this album, but it definitely seems like a continuation of Born and Raised, the album from the previous year. It has sort of a B-side vibe, so it's just got a little bit less of an edge. It's a very stripped down album. He just took it nice and easy. It's very folksy, which is fine. It's a fine album, very peaceful, but I have to put it in last because it's just got the least going on, and that's also why number 7 is Born and Raised. Don't get me wrong, I like this album quite a bit. I don't think any of his albums are bad. But before we move on, I'd like to crown a favorite song from each album. This one being Who You Love, the song with Katy Perry. Anyways, Born and Raised is just a better version of Paradise Valley. Plus, we've got everybody's favorite reuse of the melody from Love Bug by Jonas Brothers, that being Walt Grace, short for Walt Grace's Submarine Test, January 1976. So here's the thing. The song is called Walt Grace's Submarine Test, January 1967. What I said was Walt Grace's Submarine Test, January 1976.
1976.
I would just like to let you know that we're aware of this issue and are doing everything in our power to fix it. Okay, that is all. Carry on. I'm not going to spend very much time talking about this album because, again, it's just nice, simple, folksy, easy to listen to. But my favorite song from this album has to be Something Like Olivia. It was a really close one between that and Queen of California, but Something Like Olivia has a little bit more replay value for me. It's just super groovy, and it's got a sick-ass guitar solo. Next up at number 7, this one's probably not going to be too much of a surprise. We've got The Search for Everything. Now I think we're getting into the territory of really, really solid albums, because this one's got You're Gonna Live Forever in Me, one of his most popular songs. This one still feels very subdued, though. I'm a big rock and roll guy at heart, so I still need some oomph for it to rank higher. I've been a huge fan of In the Blood since I heard this album, but I have to give the crown to Still Feel Like Your Man. It is just so easy for me to put on. It's so groovy. The main guitar riff, the bridge leading back up to the last hook is so phenomenal, and the lyrics are kind of funny and entertaining. It's also one of my favorite music videos of his. I just think it's so fun. Next at number 5, we've got Battle Studies. After I initially got really into John Mayer, I spent an entire road trip listening to all of his albums back to back, and I distinctly remember when I got to this one, hearing Heartbreak Warfare for the first time. I instantly knew I was gonna like this album. It definitely had less heavy subject matter, pun intended, than his previous albums, and I feel like this is where he really started to refine his simplicity that he would carry on in the future. And if you see that as a bad thing, that's totally fine, but I just decided to take this as it was, and I think it has a really cool feel. I love Who Says and Perfectly Lonely, but my favorite song has to be Half of My Heart. I know it's the most popular, but I think it's the most popular for a reason. That, and I don't want the Swifties to be mad at me. Number 4, the reference of my previous pun, we've got Heavier Things. Again, I love the subject matter of his earlier work. It was so deep and raw and just about being a dude in his early 20s who didn't really have life figured out yet. As someone who's experiencing that now, I really relate to that. He also still had the super jazzy feel in this album, and it's got New Deep and Daughters. Those songs are fantastic. Though my favorite song from this album has to be Clarity. The main falsetto melody paired with the beautiful horns just make the song gorgeous to me. I feel like I'm definitely starting to piss some people off now, because I know there's some deep John Mayer fans there that know an upcoming album that I haven't mentioned yet, and they're probably pissed that it's this high. Just you wait. At number 3, we've got Room for Squares. I love this album. Don't get me wrong. When we get down to these albums that we're at now, it gets hard to pick. Why Georgia might possibly be my favorite song of his. And we've also got one of the most legendary guitar riffs literally ever, Neon. If you don't know anything about the guitar community, the opening riff to Neon, specifically the acoustic version he played live, is one of the most sought-after, difficult guitar riffs that everyone talks about as being like one of the most impossible riffs that if you can get it authentically sounding correct, you're like a guitar god. No Such Thing is also one of my favorite songs of his, and we've got his most guilty pleasure song, Your Body is a Wonderland. But he's also got some music in this album that's really interesting. He hadn't really dumbed down his work yet, so there's some really neat things going on from a musician standpoint. I already mentioned it, but my favorite song of this has to be Why Georgia. I just love the journey that song takes you on. It's got multiple different sections, and like Neon, it's also got an iconic picking riff. Damn, I'm rusty. Doing too much YouTube, not enough guitar. All right, number 2. Are you ready? That's right, baby. Continuum. Don't focus on the album I haven't said yet. Just focus on this album, okay? We'll get through this. This album is just freaking amazing. I know his first album was massively popular as well, and he was basically an overnight success. but I feel like this really solidified him as a household name. I mean, we've got Waiting on the World to Change, Belief, Gravity, The Heart of Life, Vultures, Stop This Train, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. This is basically a no-skip album. In my personal opinion, I think this is some of his strongest music, as well as some of his most poetic lyrics. Slow Dancing in a Burning Room alone is such a crazy good metaphor, and it's sexy. And Gravity, I think Gravity is a heartbreakingly real song that applies to anybody. And with Belief and Waiting on the World to Change, he's kind of tackled some worldly political issues a little bit. Speaking of Waiting on the World to Change, that is my favorite song from this album. Again, I know I went with the popular choice, but I'm such a sucker for just a well-crafted pop song, and I love the guitar solo. He outdid himself too on the vocals. He doesn't even like to perform that anymore because it's too high, which I can also relate to. Conveniently for this video, if you're unaware, John has his own line of Strat-style guitars made by PRS. It even says his name on the back. If you play guitar, consider checking these out. I genuinely think they're better than Fenders. And again, you get to tell people that you have John Mayer's guitar. This video is not sponsored, by the way. I have like 300 subs. I just really like these guitars. And the moment we've all been waiting for, the moment that's probably gonna lose me some subscribers. Remember, this is my personal list. I get to say whatever I want. I love Sob Rock so much. It is the album that sent me into the John Mayer rabbit hole. I am deep at heart such an 80s guy. He stated before that it was kind of a satirical album in a way. He was like, oh, what if I made an album that was so bad it's good and kind of feels nostalgic, like songs you've heard before but you haven't. And I think he pulled it off perfectly. He also did a cover of my song Last Train Home, which is very flattering to me. I think I like this album so much because it has the most distinct vibe from him. I also talked about Continuum being a no-skip album. This album is for sure 100% a no-skip album for me. Last Train Home, New Light, Wild Blue, Shot in the Dark, I Guess I Just Feel Like, Carry Me Away. Bangers. Absolute bangers. I even like Why You No Love Me. You can think it's too silly, but the music is beautiful. And if you visited my very small music selection on here, you'll know that Last Train Home is my favorite song from this album. What a great intro track. It is big, it's booming. Oh, speaking of that, this is also his best mixing by far to me. I don't know if I'd say by far, but it's his best mixing for sure. Every track is so warm and full and energized, and it's definitely the happiest sounding of his work. I just personally really like energetic, happy music, if you can understand where I'm coming from with this album. I know it's not the most refined, artsy stuff he's done, but overall, this album just makes me happy. And I will stick to my guns on Sob Rock forever. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm really curious to see if you have a list of your own for these albums. Definitely leave them in the comments below. I don't think there's any wrong answers with this stuff. I'm just genuinely curious what your guys' opinions are. And if you like Sob Rock just as much as I do, like this video, consider subscribing, and go listen to my cover of Last Train Home. Peace out.